Yeah, it was, I mean, quite the roller coaster of a season. And I mean, obviously, you guys remember just from the conversation, anytime you guys would, if Oklahoma ever came up, it's like, man, year one in the SEC is not going well. And it was made worse by the fact that OU's biggest rival, the University of Texas, is having a great season. And they were on their way to ultimately what the semifinal against Ohio State, where they were just a few plays away from playing in the national championship. So, not a lot of fun. A lot of questions surrounding Brent Venables and his status as the head coach, and deservingly so. OU is not a place where they suffer failure for a long time. And when you have two, 6, and 7 seasons in 3 years, like that's not the standard. So obviously 2025 was going to be, oh yeah, 6 and 7, got to do that. 2025 was going to be a big statement for Brent Venables moving forward if it was going to work out. And you bring in Ben Arbuckle, you bring in John Mateer from Washington State. Look, Ben Arbuckle, back in the offseason, my whole thing was yes, schematically it works. It seems to check a box. The offense, the yardage, the stats all speak for themselves. He is the first major OU coach that is younger than me. So offensive coordinator, defensive coordinator, head coach, he's the first one that's younger than me. So I just kept thinking like, man, I don't, I remember when I was 29 and I don't know if I could save someone's job if I was, paid a lot of money to do so. But as it goes, like the season happens and OU starts off with a big win against Michigan. They end up being, a good team, nothing to really write home about, but it was certainly a good step forward for OU in this team.
I mean, a lot of people are writing home about them now.
For different
Yeah,
reasons.
yeah. I got I'm gonna do through the keyhole later on tonight when we jump off. We have a show topic that says simply, do we want to talk about Sharon Moore? And like he's a former Oklahoma Sooner, so there's reason to do so. But it's like, man, that's veering into a level of sports talk that I don't want to get into because it's hard to laugh at. I don't really want to laugh at any.
I
And it
mean,
could,
there's going to be a lot more to the Michigan athletic department story.
as you're saying,
Yeah,
that could be a rabbit hole that could just go on forever.
Yeah,
Really.
and our hearts go out to his wife and children.
Yeah.
yes. I mean, like again, for the first 5 seconds, it appeared to be kind of funny. There was a tweet
Yes.
that I thought was hilarious when it all went down, like the firing. It was, cheating on the field is okay at Michigan. Cheating off the field, you don't want
Draw
to
the
be doing
line
that.
there.
Can't
Yeah.
be doing that. But it is what it is, unfortunately. But with OU, obviously, you beat Michigan, you beat Auburn, and in two different ways in exciting fashion. John Mateer looks like, hey, this is your run of the mill, typical, really good OU quarterback that can make plays with his feet, make plays with his passing. Whenever OU seemed to need a play against Michigan or Auburn, Mateer made those plays, and then he gets hurt. Then you go through is he going to play for Texas against Texas? Is he not going to play against Texas? There's not a lot of confidence behind him in terms of Michael Hawkins Jr. You guys saw him a bit last year against Auburn, against Texas, and in the bowl game against Navy. A talented kid, but everybody understood if John Mateer doesn't play, like OU has zero chance. John Mateer at some level of health percentage gives OU a better chance, but as it would turn out, it really didn't matter because John Mateer was so comically bad. And as the season kind of has worn along, John Mateer looks like a quarterback who has the flaws that we all knew, like coming from Washington State, his sidearm release, inefficiency. He's got a gunslinger mentality. And when you're playing San Jose State, when you're playing Texas Tech, Boise State last year, you can get away with stuff like that. When you're playing teams that are basically all in the top 15, top 20 SP plus defense, and they've got dudes on the defensive line, dudes at linebacker, dudes in the secondary, you can't get away with it. So John Mateer bad in the Texas game. I think a lot of it had to do with the fact that, yeah, he basically did kind of rush it back from surgery, back from being out for so long, and then just assuming that, oh, like this is how the movies go. Like the quarterback, the hero, like swoops in at the last second and saves the day. John Mateer would have struggled. Like, don't get me wrong. I don't want to be thrown into this camp of if John Mateer wasn't hurt, oh, you would have beaten Texas. I think OU would have had a much better chance at beating Texas if the injury didn't happen. But as it would turn out, John Mateer in the SEC in year one, at least, because I think it's pretty safe to assume he's going to return next year. But in year one of the SEC, quite the culture shock. I mean, the talent level is just different every single week. I mean, on OU schedule, it was Ole Miss and Tennessee and South Carolina. Like, hey, like these teams have statistically weaker defenses, and you still look at their rosters, and it's like that guy's going to go to the NFL, that dude's going to go to the NFL. It's just different in this conference, as you all know. So you lose to Texas, bounce back with a road win at South Carolina, and then you bounce back with a very tough, heartbreaking loss against Ole Miss, where Ole Miss was just the better team. They made the plays in the first half that kept them at arm's length from OU. And then OU made a furious rally in the second half in the fourth quarter, and they just weren't able to make enough plays because of everything that transpired in the first half. And so you're kind of left with, hey, this team is definitely better than last year, but at Tennessee, at Alabama, Missouri, with how they're playing at the time, LSU, like, yeah, they fired their coach. They're having a bad season. Before they played OU, they were 7-5. Like, that just goes to show you how tough the SEC is, that a 7-5 team in the Big 12 of the ACC, those teams are probably thinking like, hey, like we've got something here. After the loss to Ole Miss, it was just, this team is definitely better, but to what end? Like, what are we talking about here with Brent Venables, with where OU is in the pecking order in this conference? And then they just go out and win their last four games against Tennessee, against Alabama, against Missouri, against LSU. And in large part with John Mateer playing somewhat injured. I mean, everyone's playing hurt at this point in the year. I think mostly with John Mateer, it was twofold other than the like health. It was, like I'd mentioned, just absolute culture shock of like every team in this conference defensively, especially, is awesome. And the ego hit that he took. I mean, he talked about it to us like in different media availabilities during the season of, yeah, like I had to look myself in the mirror after the Texas game and realize I can rely on my teammates. And what he didn't want to say was, I couldn't do that at Washington State, or I couldn't do that in high school at Little Elm, Texas, where I'm the best player on the team. I have to make everything happen. At OU, you've got better talent around you. And so him navigating that, like, I'm not God, essentially, like in season, you could definitely tell like he would be tentative on some throws or some like quarterback keepers. There was a play particularly against Alabama near the goal line where you had a receiver streak open. John Mateer looks him dead in the eye, kind of wide open, and he just double clutches and says, I'm just going to eat it and take a no gain, because the last thing he wanted to do was turn the ball over. And when you have a player like John Mateer, you want him to be more risky. You want him to be able to take those chances because the risk reward is really high. But when they lack confidence, that's when you see like the 3 turnovers against Texas or the 3 turnovers against LSU. Unfortunately, against LSU, they were able to make it happen. And in the end, and now they're in the college football playoff. I said, excuse me, I said in the offseason, 9-3 is the standard that I'm going to hold this team to with their schedule, knowing that I don't think, and I was dead wrong on this, I don't think Ole Miss is going to be as good as they were last year. I don't think Tennessee is going to be as good as they were last year. I think that there's going to be some teams that kind of help OU schedule out just a little bit. And they proved me wrong. They went 10-2, and now they're in the college football playoff to play Alabama once again. And it's, it's fun to cover a team, to follow a team that is playing meaningful football this late in the season.